This video consists of two parts. In the first part, I'll talk about how to use the library's webpage to find articles, and in the second part, I'll talk about how to cite your sources appropriately in APA format. So first, I just want to give you a little bit of direction in terms of where to begin looking for articles. The library liaison is going to be coming in to speak with our class, so you may want to test this out ahead of time, and that way you'll have some questions to ask her when she comes in. So to begin, you can start on the Springfield College's main webpage, or Google the title you see here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click over to Library Services. And you'll notice right here there's a place where you can search. There's also an option to look for specific databases. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a database called Sport Discus. We just go down to the S's, look for Sport Discus. And the reason I'm starting here is because a lot of students who take this course are involved in sport-related disciplines, so they tend to gravitate towards Sport Discus as a database that they can use to look for articles. But I just wanted to demonstrate something important here with this. Let's suppose that you know an article that you want to find, and let's say you want to find my article from 2016 on the neurophysiology of action anticipation in athletes. So let's go ahead and copy this title, and I can just paste that directly into where I'm searching. I'm going to put quotes around it so that the search engine knows to find only an exact match of that entire phrase. And I'll go ahead and search. And what you notice is it says your initial search query did not yield any results. So I actually wasn't able to find that article in the Sport Discus database. Even though it's related to sports, it's not in a journal. It's in the Journal of Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews. It's not in a journal that's sport specific. So what I wanted to demonstrate here is that if you just go with a specific database for your search, you may be missing out on articles that are actually relevant to your topic. So one thing you can do is go to choose databases, and you can actually search not just Sport Discus, but others. So let's say we want to search psychology-related databases as well. So PsycInfo, Psych Articles. I'll stop there for now, but you can see you can add as many of these other databases as you'd like. All right, so I'll hit OK, and let's go ahead and search that same title again. All right, and this time it did actually show up in the database PsycInfo. So by selecting a couple databases, I was able to search the article that I wanted. Now, so why wouldn't you just search all the databases, or just search in the initial search box? If we go back to the main Library Services webpage, you could just do a quick search, right, and find, and definitely find it, because it includes all the databases and other searches as well. So let's try, for example, brain stimulation, which is one of the keywords of my article. So if I search brain stimulation in the quick search, you'll notice that it found 76,000 plus results. So that's maybe not what you want, because that's going to make it really hard to narrow it down to the specific information that you're looking for. So again, that was just to kind of give you an introduction to the databases and where to go and how to search. Definitely bring your questions in for the library liaison. But the take-home message here from this video is just meant to be that it's tough to find that good balance of narrowing it down enough that you don't have a ton of search results to go through, but not narrowing it down too much so that you're missing out important information that may not be included in the databases that you're using, or may not be captured by the search terms that you're using. So figuring out what to type in is also kind of a tricky thing to work on. And again, that's something that I can help you with, or the library liaison, or my teaching fellow can help you with as well. Okay, I just wanted to go to the second part of the video, which is how to document your sources in APA format. So you have three options for citing. In the first option, you can put all of the information in parentheses, the author's names and years in parentheses, and that could include many sources that you're citing at once. Like in this first example where we have 4 different sources. We have Archer, 1987, we have Barnett and Stanachek, 1979, Coughlin, 1984, Hollingsworth, 1975, and notice that those sources are separated by semicolons, and they're put in alphabetical order by the first author's last name. So Archer, then Barnett, then Coughlin, then Hollingsworth. And again, those are 4 different articles from 4 different years. So that's useful to do when, like I said, when you're citing multiple citations at once. We just have several researchers, cite, reported that, blah, blah, blah. That's the first option. Second option is to put the author's name just as part of the sentence, and then you're just putting the year in parentheses. And this is more useful to do if you only have one source that you're citing in a sentence. So Coughlin, 1987, stated that, blah, blah, blah. A third option that you should use sparingly, you don't see this very often, is to not use parentheses at all and to just put the year as part of the sentence as well. So in 1987, Coughlin stated that, blah, blah, blah. The reason you would do something like that is if the year was significant for some reason, or if there was some historical significance to that finding. But typically you will use one of the options that involves parentheses. Another guideline is to make it clear whose work is whose. So like I said, you do have an option where you can put multiple sources in parentheses at the end of the sentence, for example, but sometimes that can obscure which theory or which idea is credited to which author. So in this case, we're talking about the TTM, Trans-Theoretical Model, and Social Cognitive Theory, SCT, are 2 theories applied in physical activity promotion, and then cite both the authors. Problem with that is that Prochaska is actually credited with the TTM, and Bandura is credited with SCT, and it's unclear the way this first sentence is organized. If we organize it this way, so the TTM, then cite Prochaska, and SCT, cite Bandura, are 2 theories applied in physical activity promotion. And this also just shows how to handle defining SCT as an acronym in parentheses along with the citation, separated by a semicolon. A block citation is one approach that a lot of authors use to avoid having to keep citing the same source over and over and over again in a paragraph. So what you can do is you can open the paragraph by citing the authors, then just continue to refer to the same information throughout that paragraph without citing over and over again, and then close the paragraph by citing the source one more time at the end. And you can use, kind of your different options for how to do this within your block citation. So we start with the names written out as part of the sentence: Smith, Szabo, and West conducted a systematic review of the literature on action anticipation, blah, blah, blah. We keep talking about information from that article, and then finally, more longitudinal studies are needed, and we cite their paper one more time. I'll talk about et al. And why you use that a little bit later. But basically you have, sort of option 2 here, option 1 here, all in parentheses, and that just kind of bookends the paragraph on that topic. Quoting should be done sparingly. You want to try and paraphrase information as much as possible, but I'll just tell you how to quote in case you do use it a couple times in your review of literature, for example. If you want to give a definition and you don't want to change the wording at all, So if that quote is less than 40 words, you just use quotation marks and include it as part of the sentence normally. So Hristovsky et al. 2011 defined creative actions in sport as, gives the definition in quotes, novel and functionally efficient behaviors. Now, where that text came from was page 175 of that article. You need to include the page number when you're quoting. You don't need to include page numbers otherwise, only if you're quoting. All right, and notice that we close the quote, then we put the page number in parentheses, and we put a period. Another option is similar, but it's just putting the author's name and year in the parentheses along with the page number, all separated by commas, because we're not naming the author in the sentence. So creative actions in sport have been defined as, gives the definition, gives the full citation in parentheses, and then a period. If there are 40 more words in the quote, you need to indent the quote as a block. So you can kind of give a little intro sentence. Dunn et al. 1999 described content validity as follows. And then you're giving the quote. Hopefully the quote doesn't actually say blah, 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 but you get the idea. It's a long quote. And then you put a period. You put the page number in parentheses. Another option, kind of like in the last example, instead of putting the author's name in the sentence, you can put it in the parentheses along with the year, along with the page number. So when to use et al. So sometimes instead of listing out all the authors' names, you replace it with the abbreviation et al. So if there are one or two authors, you just list all the names. You don't abbreviate. So you see some examples here, Thompson 2020, or Thompson 2020 with the name outside of the parentheses. And with two authors, Jones and Smith, an ampersand if it's inside parentheses, the word and if outside of parentheses. So one or two authors, pretty straightforward. With three or more authors, you simply use the first author's name plus et al. So in this example, we might have Smith and three or four other authors, but you would just list Smith et al. 1996. Again, you can do this either in parentheses separated by a comma, or you can have Smith et al. Outside of parentheses with the year in parentheses. And I just wanted to take this moment to point out one of the earlier slides has been updated. So I'm going to go back to that. Previously, early in the video, in fact, you would have seen that this said Smith, comma, Szabo, comma, and West. So in the old version of APA 6th edition and earlier, it was the case that for 3 to 5 authors, you would actually list them out the first time and then use et al. It's been simplified. The new edition of APA makes it so that you simply start using et al. Right away. So this is actually correct. You would use Smith et al. 2016 at the beginning as well as at the end. When you have multiple references that you want to put within the same parentheses, the main rule is to just use alphabetical order. So don't like order it by the year or something like that. In this example, it would be Jones first, then Smith, then Thompson, because you're using alphabetical order, and you separate those 3 separate sources with a semicolon here and here. In your bibliography list, I guess the most obvious thing to note is that it goes in alphabetical order by the first author's last name. The entries that you're putting in your bibliography are going to vary for articles, books, chapters within books, and so on. Lots of different sources out there that you could be using, primarily articles, but you just need to know that you can look up the format for each different source type in your APA manual, or you can look on the Purdue OWL website, which is pretty useful for looking up different formats and all these different APA rules for citing and writing up your bibliography list. If the situation is ambiguous, for example, if you have multiple authors with the same name and you're not sure how to put it in alphabetical order, or if you have multiple works by the exact same authors and maybe even in the same year by the same authors, it can be hard to figure out how to put them in alphabetical order. So definitely check your APA manual for those details and let me know, let your teaching fellow know, or use the library resources, use the people working there in the Academic Success Center, for example, to help you with some of those rules as well. And that's all for now. I'll see you soon.